joining us. And Terry, I see you found the link. Yay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And Carl, what's your fly tonight?
I'm going to tie a blue wing olive.
Yay. One of my faves.
So this is my new favorite fly. So a little history on me. I back in New Mexico where I grew up, most of the fly fishing that I did was usually with dry flies, and very few nymphs, sometimes some streamers in the lakes when we'd be backpacking up in the wilderness. But so and one of the things is that dry fly fishing in Missouri has been less prominent for me over until the last 2 years. I've gotten more into doing more dry flies, mostly because it's just fish and nymphs over the years, because I would always catch more fish with nymphs. So a few weeks ago, I made a trip over to Lane Springs. Had never fished that river, or the Little Piney. I've always wanted to. I've always heard some things about it, fishing it, and how challenging it can be. And so I guess I kind of just stared away from it. And so finally I said, okay, I'm going to do something different. I went there and I caught my first my first wild trout on the Little Piney, and everything that everybody told me about it was true. You got to cast, you got to be stealthy, and you got to find out, and have good presentation. Where I had good presentation, I would get a look at it. Had a lot of refusals. Finally caught one, and then I missed probably another 15 fish the rest of the afternoon. So most of it was my fault because of how I was trying to fish through the trees. So I was trying not to get in the water because I didn't want to spook anything, because I have a tendency to do that with my big old boots. So anyway, this is the pattern that I used there. I tied this pattern off of watching a lot of YouTube videos on different things. So with that, if no further ado, I'll tie that. And then if I got enough time, I'll tie this one here that I was playing with. I didn't get to fish this one, but I thought it was a pretty cool looking fly. So it's another form of the blue wing olive. Blue wing olive is a mayfly. And when I turned over stones, what I did see was a lot of mayfly nymphs, but I didn't really see any mayflies flying per se. So it was fun to catch a fish, and that little sucker fought, these stalker trout, they give up after about 5 seconds sometimes. This little guy he's only about 11 inches long, but he went left and he went right and he went back, and after about 45 seconds, he finally gave up, and I was able to get down close to the bank because I was behind a tree and half on a little cliff. So I had to kind of try to get down around a tree with my rod and not lose him, but I got where I could net him. And so it was a fun experience. So, nothing better than dry fly fishing experience wise. So, but it'd been a while since I'd caught some on a dry fly. So anyway, so I'll shut up with that. So for materials tonight, and I caught it on a size 14. I'm going to use these. Is that backwards?
No.
Okay. Looks backwards on my camera, but that's okay. If you can read it, that's fine.
we can read it.
Okay. This is size 14 dry standard fly hook. Tools you'll need, I'm using an olive thread 8/0. You want some dubbing wax because I'm going to tie this in a natural hair. Obviously scissors, whip finisher. So materials for the fly. This pattern here, I use a poly yarn for the wing. I picked this tip up on YouTube. I thought it was it makes the way I'm going to do it, it makes it easy to handle, especially if your fingers are nimble and have a hard time, with dexterity sometimes. So I'll show you a pattern or a way that I do that. For tail material, I just take a saddle, some sort of a saddle hackle. You want some long, stiff white fibers. I'm told that's important, but that's what I used and it worked. And then I'm going to be using a hackle off of a chocolate done, and it's a neck hackle. And this is a number 3 Mets. I've got a number 2, but the colors, that's a little better quality of a cape, but the color on this one works better as far as getting that blue wing on it. And then I'm going to be using some natural olive dubbing that I've had for probably 25 years. I don't even remember where I got it. I bought something, and maybe it was just a hair package or something anyway, but I remember putting in my coffee grinder to get it, but that's basically the color of it. And it came in this little package. It said dubbing fur, and I didn't, it's probably my first kit maybe I got, I don't know, but the color seems to work good, really well, that I've had in Missouri with, whether I'm doing nymphs or dry fly. Olive seems like it's a good color, and this natural olive color I seem to have had pretty good luck with. So on the mayfly, some things to point out here. We're going for a tail. We want a tapered body. Of course, the wing, and then we've got the blue wings that I'll wrap around. And then one thing that I do on this fly, and then I picked this up on YouTube and it works really well, is after I wrap the hackle, I trim the bottom hackle off. And what that does is it helps to let it set in the hook and everything in the water a little better. So it imitates the mayfly a little bit better. So and something I'd learned a long time ago and I'd kind of forgotten about. But one of the things in watching some YouTube videos is kind of helped me remind me of it. There's basically 3 things when you're doing fly selection. It's size is number 1, shape or silhouette's number 2, and color's number 3. And it seemed like a lot of guides like to go in that order. And so the more I thought about it, well, that makes sense. The size was obviously right, the shape was obviously right, and the color was probably okay. So I did tie some, just when I was playing around before I get started on this, I wanted to show you guys something. I tried to buy some olive goose biot, and Tom Hardgrove, when I was there last, all he had was it looked olive, but then by the time I got it on the fly, it looked yellow. But I did fish this color a little bit, and I would get a lot of refusals on it. I wouldn't get a solid hit. And I don't think it was my presentation. I think it was the color. But, you could see the difference in the color of that yellowish to that greenish. And that seemed to be more of a difference. So, just share that for what it's worth. That's what I discovered. All right. Any questions so far? All right. So the main thing is proportion on the fly. And we want to get a tapered body. And we want to put the wings up here. So up here, right about the 3/4 mark of the shank. So basically from here to here. So if this is half, you want your wings to tie in about here, which is about a little bit the width of your eye from back here to here. So about right there is where we're going to want to leave this area bare a little bit, so we can at least have enough when we tie on our hackle and build our head so it doesn't crowd everything. Crowded heads don't work very well sometimes, at least for me, because I'll be stubborn and I'll try to shove it in there and crowd it, and then I'll get glue in it and I won't get to tip it in there and all that. So I'm going to start 1 about 1 eye length behind the eye. And I'm going to give it a few turns here and get up to about the 3/4 mark. Secure my thread all the way back and then come forward. Then I'm going to take about 3 inches of the poly yarn, take a little snippet. And I'm going to take the poly yarn and I'm going to grab it by both ends. I'm going to make sort of a loop here. And so one of the rules on proportion that I've heard a lot of people say online is a lot of things that everything you do in your proportions, a lot of it has to do with the length of the shank. So so you want your wings about the length of the shank. I make this a little bit longer because what's going to happen when I tie it in, I'm going to leave this loop like that and cut it and trim it where I'm at when I get done. Just makes it easier to handle than trying to match everything up and get it all perfect. So get some of these loose fibers out. So I'm gonna go a little bit longer and I'm gonna go right up to about that 3/4 mark. And I'm gonna tie this in at the top, get a couple loose, semi-loose wraps. And I'm gonna pull it down and I'm tying it right on the top of the shank. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap back a little tighter turns till I get to the end of where my thread was when I got done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this at an angle because I want to tie this in and this will help when I build the taper of my body. I'm going to snip it off there at an angle. I'm going to wrap a little bit tighter. And I have that. Now, if you notice, I haven't gone forward with my thread yet. And I've found by wrapping it up and trying to get a thread in there, I tend to put way too much thread on my head and I have a hard time getting my hackle wrapped on it when I'm trying to get it set. So I just chose myself not to put any thread there so I can leave myself a few more mistakes later on. So, all right. So I'm going to take some white hackle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of stretch it out here a little bit. I want to get some long hackles. I want to try to get them about as straight as I can. Just pull them out straight and get a bunch, pull down. Let me turn it around here. So about like that. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to get these to about to the length of the shank again. Just keep going back and forth between your fingers. So I go to the length of the shank and I'm going to go back here to the end of it and get to right to the end where I was at. And if you notice, I don't have any thread on my hook. And there's a reason. The guys that I've watched online that have done it, it makes it easier to get it on top of the shank and guide it. So as I'm rolling backwards, I want to make sure I got my length about right. So I got my tail up to about here and then back up to here. What that is. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to move. As I'm wrapping back, I'm holding the tail and I'm just moving it back and forth. And I want to get good, even, tight wraps as I go back. And I'm going to go all the way to the barb. Maybe one more there, 2 more. Okay, then I'm going to take a wrap here and I'm going to go get my thread up underneath the tail, up underneath the wrap, and then I'm going to go wrap over one more time. And what that does is it flares out the wings or flares out the tail. I don't know if you can see that very well there. But it creates a nice little flare for that tail. And I don't want to get it too tight right there because I want them to stay there, but then I'm going to start wrapping a little tighter to secure it. So the next thing I'm going to do is just trim off this tail, or trim off the feathers that I had, the hackle for the tail, kind of separate it out. There, I'm going to just leave that like that. I think on that Saturday tying thing they did a few weeks ago, I didn't get to see this last one. I was a little busy. But one of the guys that was doing some dry flies said something that I'd heard before and had forgotten. Sometimes less thread is good. So, especially in dry flies, he said. So I've kind of remembered that. All right, so put a little bit of dubbing wax on, and we're going to go a little bit at a time here and go forward. I'm going to wrap, start back up here. And I'm going to wrap forward. Kind of continually work your dubbing as you go forward. You can come a little bit thicker on the end as you go towards the base. But what we're going to do is we're going to stop right here about an eye length behind the wing. All right, just keep rolling. So what we want to make sure we're going for is that taper in it. That on the shape or the silhouette, I think the taper is one of the biggest things about flies, especially with trout. And I want it buggy, but I also want to try to get it smoothed out a little. And with natural furs or even any kind of dubbing, you're going to get some flyaway hairs. I used to have flyaway hairs, but they all fell out. So just trim it off to a little bit of a body, and it gives it a little bit of a buggy look there. All right, next, the hackle. So I am going to pull off towards the front end of my cape here, about a size 14. And I like it, and it doesn't matter if it has to be a size 14, especially on this fly. I like it a little bit bigger, I think, because it just gives a little bit more of a wing presentation. So right there, I'm going to snip off a bit of that. You want to get away from all your fluff, your down from the bout of the fly there. Maybe a little bit more than that. That one's a little thick on me. All right, so I'm going to strip off, and I'm not going to leave, like sometimes like on wet flies, we'll leave like a little tippet tie-in point there. I'm going to just strip it all the way down on this here. That's still a little bit wider than I want. So what I'm going to do is I tie it in. I want it, and what helps me, especially from a learning aspect of it, was so you can get this stem tied in properly, is to have it, it's okay to have it a little bit longer as you go over, but you want to make sure as you tie this in, you leave a little stem hanging up here in this area before you wrap. Seems to help it go on a little better. I'm going to get some good solid wraps in here. Then I'm going to grab the wings finally. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, my stem is just a smidge too long. And it allows you to be able to just go in and measure that with your scissors and just trim it off. I'm going to hold it back here, and I'm going to wrap forward. Now I'm going to wrap all the way to the eye, I'm going to make sure my eyelet is closed with some thread. Get one wrap up there, and then I'm going to wrap back behind it. And one of the videos that I watched on the blue wing olives, if you look at the actual bug down here below their thorax, their main body here, they have a pretty healthy body. And that was one thing I noticed on a lot of the mayfly patterns, especially with the blue wing olive, that they had a big healthy body underneath them. So I'm going to tie that in, and now I'm going to put a little bit more to help that body build up. I'm going to put a little more dubbing up onto the back here and also towards the front here ahead of my poly yarn there. Then I'm going to wrap forward and get a little dubbing there. I think I need just a little bit more on that front end here, just because I want to. A little goes a long way on this little dinky fly. Well, not dinky, but okay. And you get some flyaways, you can trim those out, pull them out, whatever. All right, so we have a pretty prominent pattern. I think I'm going to put just a little bit more on there. I'm just not happy with that. I want to get a little more. So. And one of the things that, and I don't know if this makes a whole lot of difference, but on the fly that I tied right here earlier, I noticed that when I wrapped it, when I had a better body fill in there, kind of gives it sort of a segmentation of some sorts up at that front. I don't know if that makes any difference, but to me, I thought it looked pretty cool. So maybe it does make a difference, but just because I think it's cool doesn't mean it's right. So all that matters is the fish takes it. So. All right. Now we grab our hackle pliers. I think these are called loon, I think. Anybody use these? I love these hackle pliers. I've had them just about a week or so, but really easy to use and seems like I don't lose as much on there. So we want to get 3 wraps behind here. Now, one of the important things is you want to make sure that the start of your wing, the wrap here, that you've got a distance here between your wing that you're wrapping and your hook point. And you want to go straight up and down, get 1 wrap around, get 2 wraps, and 3, and then wrap forward up against it. And as you're wrapping your hackle, keep pulling that hackle back with it just to kind of help go in there. And I like to get 2, possibly 3 wraps, depending how my hackle's looking here. And I want to go up. Now, one thing I kind of missed there was getting my thread in place, but that should be all right. Because if you don't have your thread in place when you're trying to wrap that forward, you could get yourself kind of messed up and your thread will come right off. So I'm zigzagging this, trying to get it all in there and trying not to get any of my hackles in there, but sometimes that's a little impossible. You watch the pros do it and they make it look like grease lightning. Now I'm going to build the head up. And take my whip finisher. And I'm moving my whip finisher back around so I don't try to catch any fibers. All right, almost done with this fly. So the next thing I like on this loop, to me, it makes it a lot easier to handle because you can put your scissors right up here in the middle. Give it a nice little quick trim. And then right above it, you can hold it, and you could even hold it and just do it without it like that. Give you a little fluff there. So it gives it kind of a wing pattern, but it's also easy to spot in the water. That's one thing I liked about it. And then what I'm going to do, like I said earlier, I'm going to trim this off here a little bit, the hackle, so it sits in the water. Kind of gives it a little bit of a leggy look, maybe. I don't know if that's really what the mayfly has legs there at, but and I'm going to put a little bit of a, as Barry Ordeshe says, a little bit of varnish. There, that's Carl's blue wing olive, which I didn't invent that. That's just what I tied. So
Very nice.
Yay.
Excellent.
Good.
it's a pretty simple
Great.
fly to tie, and I can vouch that it is effective. So
It's extremely effective, and I think it's a good technical fly in regards to the like best practices. And I think it's something interesting because, you know, you mentioned cutting hackle, and some on the purist side, people will actually cringe and oh, you can't cut hackle on the underneath to open up that gap. So the distance between your hook point and your hook shank is sometimes crucial to the way that fly will lay. And again, you've got your water surface, so you've got a film, it'll lay on top, and it spreads out, and it's a beautiful presentation. So nice job, Carl.
thank you.
I'm
Yeah, Carl, I
gonna
tied
switch-
that. I tied that fly in a size 22 for South Platte River in Colorado. It's
You just keep
extraordinarily
on
effective.
bragging. You and your 22s, John. You and your
Hey.
22s.
Man, look,
Man.
hey, that's what I caught all my fish on this weekend. What can I say?
Okay, so I'm gonna flip over real quick. You guys have my camera. So first off, I have a green shirt, so thank you on that. By the way, Charles isn't on the call, but John, look, I have green on my bobbin, so I don't always use white. But one of the things, again, as a newbie coming in, and you see different things, so you gotta love blue wing olive, and you walk into a shop and BWOs, and you're like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what a BWO is. And how many times have we been there? And you're like, okay, I'm like, yeah, you don't want to ask. So how do you like this? For fly tying, there's about 700 shades of olive. Okay. So you've got everything from an aqua. This is a gorgeous color. Great. You've got more iridescent in there. You've got a little bit more hardy forest green. Everything is referred to as olive. You can buy dubbing packs in the whole big, like my big old cheaters here. Okay. And they're all in olive, orange, purples, eggplant. So when you walk in, and just like Carl said, in regards to, you know, kind of get it out, look at it. If you don't have the right color, you don't have to take by the box. So that's where mixing colors and the same, you know, you pull it out, and I laugh about this, and I kind of don't, because anybody who's put this out on a table when you're trying to instruct, and you pick it up at the end of the day and it's empty, because everybody goes in there like, oh, I need absolutely some of the critical mistakes on this fly, because it looks so simple when Carl's doing it, and then all of a sudden you start doing it, is overdubbing. It's also, you know, kind of on the mishandling. So you've got some olive, want to pull that out. I've got a little bit of off-white. I want to pull that out because I want to lighten that shade. So it's mixing it. And that's that same little bubble gum. You guys who know Silly Putty and how we used to pull out the cartoons. Okay, so it's kneading it. I got you guys to laugh. You know what I'm talking about.
I
I
do.
just dated my
Yeah,
I just dated myself
absolutely.
totally. So it is one of those things, again, blending it. It doesn't have to go in the grinder, but blending it so it's constantly, it's that up and over. You know, this is my OCD. Okay, so every time, and by the way, any comments on my fingernails and I'll come and meet you somewhere because this is what it looks like when you fish all weekend in the cold and the rain. But you constantly need that over and over and over. The other part is, and so just kind of classic of what Carl had done, as to the style on this is, again, less is more to start with. So with your dubbing coming in underneath, I've got this big wad, and instinctively people try to go on the top. And if you were watching what Carl was doing on that, he was coming underneath, very relaxed. Okay, he wasn't trying to put all of it on here at once. He was coming in, he was pulling the threads from the top, and it's just instinctive. But the more you practice this, okay, see how you're pulling the top threads and you're kind of pulling that out. And then you have your amount that you want in there. And then you're building up. That thorax shape on this fly is crucial. It is a blue wing olive. When you have that tapered, it goes up to a bulb and then it tapers back. And so depending on what you have, but again, you've got kind of that shape building, and then you can come back and kind of fine tune. So you've got that, again, that shape on there. It is something where, again, you kind of look at it and go, well, a little bit more, a little bit more. All of our flies, if we ever pulled them out, you'd look at it and you'd say, I added too much here. It's practice and error. You know, it is something where if you don't like the shape of it, keep it in the box, maybe fish it out, see what it looks like, but you can always come back in and add more dubbing. But instinct, again, first beginner ones, it's like, well, I got to get this big wad on here, and they keep trying to twist it, and they're like, why doesn't my dubbing stick? Well, because we need to teach a different way. So pull from the fibers at the end. Again, gently, you're coming out. You have this wispy part, start. And I don't use dubbing wax, but use it if it's more. What I find is dubbing wax is, it just sticks to me more than it sticks to my fly. So again, kind of building up that bulb, go in the front. But I want to keep, because with this particular, we're keeping the wing going more at a 45 degree. Then I come back, hop behind. The other thing is that hackle, and we've talked about this a couple different times, and I will show you guys so you think I don't have a dubbing issue. Yes, Lois, I hear you on this call.
I have a hackle issue.
I have a hackle issue. That's this box, Carl. That's this box. So with your hackle and so it is something where, again, everybody tells you, oh, you got to touch it, you got to figure out what you have. And Carl referred to size 14 hackles. And I have a gauge, and I can tell you at this point, I have never used my hackle gauge because, again, it's what you learn from this whole process and journey. So when you spend 50 bucks on this and you're like, and then the pro that you walk past, did you touch it? Did you feel it? Do you know what you're getting? And you walk out and you're like, I hope I did. It was $52. So when you're looking at hackle, it comes in the pack like this, right? So you've got it like this. And the easiest way to look at hackle, because it's really pretty, you know, you pull it out and you're like, yeah, I looked at it. I know what, oh, it's pretty. It's soft. Turn it on the side, comb over. Okay, just think comb over. Okay, these are your smaller pieces for your dry. Then you start getting to your more medium. And then you also get to your larger, more in a bugger or like the tail section, what Carl referred to. So it works on every single hackle, right? Pretty, gorgeous, spent a ton, and this will last me a long time. Flip it, And there I have. So I'm going to save these for my more elite dry flies. I'm going to use these more on kind of a done. And then I'm going to use these for either tails or trimming, like what he talked about. But it is something because it's very intimidating because it's a lot of change to drop on these. So when you go in, you can also find some of the hackle packs that come in something like this, and they tell you that they're the 100 pack. Well, I have yet, it's like Tootsie Pops. I don't know if you can get 100 flies out of them. I lost track on the counts. You know, they look a little bit more reasonable. They are perfectly sized for the flies that you're working on. So it is something where, because on the back, so you buy it, you look at it, it's in the plastic, you turn it over, and down here at the bottom, it will tell you the fly size, which means the hook size. Okay, the hook gap is what we're trying to clear with the dry fly. Because if I take something that's of this big, exorbitant size, then all of a sudden, all I've done by laying this in here is I've completely crowded this. And what it does is it impedes your set. So when you have that fish on, you know they've taken it, and you go to set and you've got all this stuff, and your sets are going to be less precise. So having the right size hackle, I don't even know where my hackle measure is a key thing. Also, then when you're getting ready to tie in your hackle, and Carl did a great job on this. I mean, very specific as to how the cut, come in, clear it. Okay, so that you have, and I used to call this the stem, and then I was corrected by someone who knew what they were talking about. But you're coming in, you bring it up on that 45. Okay, so slide it up your thread. And you're going to come in 2 wraps to anchor it in, because your wraps are with purpose, and 1 wrap behind. And now my hackle is laying almost at a 45 degree or perpendicular to me. That's where I want my hackle, because that will give me the cleanest wrap as I come around. It is something where, again, when you've got that little bit of stem coming through, I usually save it. It's just an extra anchor point. I'm not going to come in and risk coming in with my scissors to this, to this, to this. So kind of measure it out to what you have left on your eye to work with, and then position your thread so it's up at the finish point. That's where I want to end. Whoops, hang on. Redo. We're not recording, right? I'm going to come in. We're just going to go ahead and move towards the front. But again, that kind of perpendicular is important on that clean wrap. A lot of people kind of fight with their hackle. So 2 wraps behind, 1 wrap in front, come in, anchor that in. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my thread, I'm coming behind, I'm going to go up. And if you can see, it's not, I don't have a twitch, but what I'm doing is, and when I come behind and I kind of move this, because I want my thread as close to the hook shank every single turn I do on that. That's when I say tie with purpose. That means I'm trying to visualize my thread as close to the hook shank as I possibly can get on there. I've talked about this before. Hackle is really finicky. It will jump on you. So instead, maybe put in a half hitch at this stage. Just did it. Put in a half hitch to come in. You can cut it at this point. You could come in and you could do your whip finish. I'm a whip finisher. I like this. I think it makes the sturdiest, best wrap on the end, and it closes out that shape that we're trying to do. And you see where this jumped when I was just getting ready to tie it in, where I said, there, it did it. Hackle will jump all the time. And so again, that little half hitch to hold it in place is absolutely, it's a day saver, because this thing's coming apart when I'm off this video. Show you that again. And this is how you recover. Okay, so I've already finished it in, but I didn't like the way that hackle did. So I'm gonna go back in, clear this again so that I've got down to the stem, come up on a 45 underneath, anchor it in, anchor again. Wow, that one really jumped in front. Come in front, anchor that in place. And now I can start my wraps coming around, 2 behind. Carl's was nice and clean. I liked how many wraps that had in there. And now I've got my hackle in place in front. Come in, going underneath. Darn it. Yeah, I kept it clean in case we are recovering. This is where hackle pliers come in handy. Come in, come behind, switch it, come up behind, switch it again, and I'm anchored in. You can pull this back out of your way. Again, this is really handy as far as just with the end of your bodkin, come in, roll it up so that you're not losing any tension there. Roll it up again, and then you can just clear that eye and come in with your whip finisher. You can also clear this now and cut the hackle and get it out of your way. Come in, I'm gonna pull all this back so that I'm nice and clear on and finish that out. Then on this part of it too, and I have a couple, that's just an added element, I guess, on this fly tonight. But I have a couple in front. You can come in, clear your eye on that part. Same with what Carl was saying. I do parachutes the same way. Come in, cut it, and then cut it your length. Have scissors, use your nippers on the water, because when you start fouling on your tippet, and so all of a sudden you pull it up and it's a squirrel's nest and you're using 7X, it's because your parachute is too long. So come in, you can't add any on, but that's about the right shape on that. About the height of the hackle, a little bit more. But great fly tonight, Carl. Thank you very much. Very effective.
Thanks.
I don't think my
Couple things I want to say, Amy, on that. One thing I noticed putting that poly yarn like you did, and here when you cut it, what it'll do when you do that with that loop on it, it makes it really easy to, it almost fans it out like a wing almost like it's got 2 wings on it almost, you know?
And it does, it absolutely affects the profile. And so here's the top view on that fly. And the best advice I ever got in any of the fly tying is look at me all over. That's what your fly is telling you. So we are so used to seeing that on our angle when we're tying, and you turn it like that and you're like, oh yeah, any trout will eat that. Any fish will eat that. But if you turn it and you look and you're like, yep, I like that shape. Here's the underneath side. So you turn it. And again, you're going for a classic on a mayfly pattern. You're going for that classic thorax look. It is about the shape. The tail can be too long. Again, you're on the water, use your nippers, cut it. How Carl showed of coming up underneath the tail is absolutely just a best practice on all of your dry flies. And I've shown you guys the paintbrush trick and a few other things. Coming up underneath keeps the back end of that up. So if this fly's been hit 2 or 3 times and it just starts getting beat, if you haven't put that up underneath, it's just going to literally get in. It's going to feed into the bend. It won't hold the integrity. This fly could be used all day long on fish after fish. So,
Hey, another comment when you talk about hackle, Amy.
Yep.
I started, one of my buddies in Alabama got me on this, let me know about this fly tying hackle group on Facebook. And it's hosted by a guy named James Slattery. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I've gotten my notepad out though. I'm writing notes.
It's James Slattery, Slattery, and it's Fly Tying Hackle Group. He basically runs this Facebook page. He sells hackle himself, and he buys it and he grades everything on his own. And I've looked online at different, he sells Mets and whitings as well. But he's, you want to talk about hackle junkies, these guys on this, I think they just buy this stuff to hold on to it forever. But it's a great Facebook page on hackle and different colors. And and I've ordered some hackles from him. I ordered some capes and some saddles from him. And I even got I bought a pro grade here that I got. I spent $53 on this.
Right, switch your camera. Yeah, there you go.
Let me back it up here a little bit. And this is a pro grade, which isn't the top grade. That I got this for $53, and I got more feathers here, and I'll tie till I die. And he'll have sales on there every once in a while. But I've got on his website and ordered, and but he personally goes through all of it and makes sure that the grades match. So, and the colors that he has on there, he has this different lot, so exactly what you're getting. So I just pass that on if people are looking at it. It's kind of funny. Sometimes he'll do like these raffles just to buy something. He'll throw something on there, and if this one's 93 plus the ride, or this one's 53. It's just
I like
it's
that's
kinda
reason enough for me
crazy.
to shop there. Anybody who adds that in there, I'm willing to give them a dime.
Yeah.
So-
What's that name again?
Jim Slatterly. And
How'd you
he's the
spell
one
it?
that hosts the group. Let's see. It's called Fly Tying Hackle, and it's a group post by James Slattery, Slattery. But he does it basically to sell his hackles. But he had actually one time on there a platinum grade barred one, which is like very rare. And he posted it on there. He posted it on there that you had to have guess a number between 1 and 100. And Monday night at 8 o'clock, whoever's closest gets the chance to buy it. And if you buy it, you got to promise you'll use it and not sell it on eBay. So,
Yep.
or Amazon.
And that's awesome. And I think it is something. So, I know we have kind of all different levels in regards to hackle, and you go in and again, if you're able to look at this in person, if not, there's resources out there. The biggest advice I can say is get to know your shop owners, because they'll get used to you and you get used to them. You don't have to go buy a $400 cape to do what we're doing.
No.
It's out there, and it's definitely a part of our obsession, but it is something where I think when you first walk in, and it's a trick. So you saw my little dubbing box. Well, that's the dubbing box. Not to mention the other stuff. And then I have one that's more of the wraps and the chenilles. Anyway, it is something when you first walk in, it's kind of a trick, because you get to all the little packs and they're just $2. It's just $2. And then you get up to the checkout and you're like, how did I spend this much? Then you don't even have enough to put in one coat pocket. You're just going, wow, this is real. It is something. I think hackle is the most intimidating aspect of what you buy, other than hooks and not understanding what a gap is. And so all of us who have gone down that route, and you try to buy hooks and you try to buy hooks, and as I've always said too, if you wear glasses, wear your glasses to the fly shop, because otherwise you'll come out with stuff that you didn't really intend to get. But hackle, I think, because you're dropping all of a sudden 40, 50, 60, $120, being able to see it online, just exactly what Carl said. We've had other comments when we've talked about this of how you can buy a bugger pack, and the bugger pack is what would be considered kind of your front layer. And so it has a front layer. I don't have any handy. It's a plastic pack, and if you open it, and they're all able to open, it's whether or not they really like your net. So you'll have your pack on front, and it has all these big fibrous, oh wait, I thought I switched my camera. Hello. And it's about 14, 15 bucks, which is a little bit more manageable, right? So you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a bugger pack and that looks good. Well, if you open it and then all of a sudden you find jackpot because you've got all this finer material behind it. So this would be like a one to use for a bugger. And then you start finding all of these little feathers at the top. It is something, again, and now that you guys are all fully obsessed in this, is we are the easiest people to Christmas shop for, because all you need is a gift certificate to a fly shop, and then you can figure out what to do with it. The other part is that when you find things that are kind of, this is a Mets, so this one too, and again, the comb over doesn't work as well, but you can sure see what stands up on front. But it is something that as you flip, and so then you buy this, start looking underneath, because then you can start seeing all the different feathers you can use for everything, the color variation. And this is the same. So this is a ginger, this is a ginger, this is a ginger, just like olive, little bit less extreme when you start talking about the different variations on. Again, when you get the black and white, you can get a green and white. There's a lot of different patterns. Figure out what you like to tie the most in regards to color wise, because you're going to be looking at this for a long time till you use it up. So I would say if you like, and I tend to go more on this kind of reddish on the ginger. This is one that I tie a lot, I use a lot, so it wasn't a waste of money for me. But anybody have any questions on that? Because we covered a lot of materials tonight.
You know, everybody talks about how much it costs for the hackle. I spend more money driving to the fly store than I do for the hackle. Because my nearest fly shop's close to 300 miles away.
Yep. And John, I would say though, you know, with the internet and with different things too, and your connections, even like how you've done with Mudhole and your rod connections, you know how to make those connections. If you need something for Mudhole, you know exactly who to talk to. And even the distance on that, our fly shops are ready to talk to you. And I think that's across the board. So
Jay
you don't
Stockard,
have to.
Yeah, Jay
Yep.
Stockard will do that too. I've talked with them quite a bit about what I need. In fact, I needed some Hungarian partridge feathers, but I needed long one for soft hackle flies. And they said the only thing they could do was I'd have to buy the whole hide. So that's what I did. And I got the feathers I need, plus a whole bunch
Yep.
more. Anybody need any Hungarian partridge, let me know.
I need the small ones.
No, the small ones are what I need.
I keep running. I've run out of my whole packet. My one that I've had for about 10 years finally got through those, and now I need to get some small ones.
I think that's something too, where again, don't underestimate just talking to somebody on that. And I think, you know, there's any fly shop, and I am going to preface that because I have to, because I'm sure somewhere in this, but anyway, it is something where, again, don't name drop. You're a fly tire, you're newer into this. I've been tying for 20 years. I'm looking for this material. I'm 300 miles away from my fly shop and I need this. But the more they know you and the more that you're dropping some money in there, they're going to start taking care of you. And also, if you get materials that you don't like, you need to let them know, and contact them back. And it's not necessarily, that's not a bad thing, but I think there's a lot of folks out there. And again, I wouldn't say necessarily call and say, well, I'm with Project Healing Waters and I'm, you know, doing this and this and this. We're not, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying communicate with your fly shops, because Feathercraft is awesome as far as online. They are, Tommy hasn't quite caught up yet on that side of it, but they are, hey, they're on Facebook this year. It's a miracle. Those guys are great. They'll drop anything in the mail for you too. And I think the more that you just reach out, the more help's out there. Who knew that you could sit here and watch hours and hours and hours of videos just to tie flies, but it's just as deep on the shops. And Lois, we see you lurking in the shadows back there. And she's in Colorado Springs. She's muted right now because we have to do that with her. But she's got some great fly shops out there as well. So I think as we cross boundaries and cross states and start figuring out where we want to shop, reach out to somebody else. And
Hey,
get those
Lois, what's the name?
recommendations.
Lois, what's the name of that fly shop out on Academy Boulevard toward the Academy on the west
Peak.
side of the road?
Peak Fly Shop.
Yeah, Pete's Fly Shop. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very good friends with the owners.
Are
so,
you?
Yeah, and I was teasing Amy earlier about, oh, I guess I'll head up to Charlie Craven's, whatever.
And she saw me she saw me just about come out of my chair. I'm like, what? You're going to Charlie? Anyway. So, but we broker deals. So if you need brokers, we're actually figuring this out, and we're really pretty good, because she got a couple game changers and I'm getting a boatload of stickers. And she does lanyards out of the paracord. So we can take care of brokering you too. All right, guys.
Lois, you know Don Peterbaugh?
No, I'm new to the sport, so I don't know. I know Sun Tao.
Yeah.
I know him.
Yes.
And I was going to mention, Amy, that he's always trying to give us materials here in our program, and we don't take them. So
So in town is.
yeah, so he gets.
Send him back to me. I have a challenge from him. I have a challenge coin from him. He was in a year and a half, and we had him come to St. Louis, and he tied for us at Feathercraft for one of our healing Saturdays.
Yeah,
I'll
he's been
connect
to
with him.
Whiting and all that, but he's got tons of materials. And if you go on his Instagram page, he does lots of giveaways as well.
Yep.
So if you need something from him, I'll go pick it up and mail it to you. Because he's always offering, and we never take him up on it. So he gets premium materials. Let me just say.
He is so, and we had a conversation about this because you probably say it correctly, and I introduced him 3 times in front, and then I was corrected that it's actually Sun Tao, but it reads like Sun Tao. And so anyway, I kept calling him Sun as if he was family. He started out as a participant, and he's active military. He has an incredible story. I won't go into some of it, but we'll just say he is active military and also carries 2 Purple Hearts.
Carries what?
He carries 2 Purple Hearts.
Wow.
You met him, Terry. He was one of our
Yeah.
tires at Healing Saturday at Feathercraft. He came in from
Yeah, I
Indiana.
remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he went back overseas, then he came back, and now currently he's in Colorado. He is a participant in Colorado Springs as well. Super nice guy, super. But he is picked up, he's on the pro staff because Project Healing Waters was a therapy for him. He learned to tie. Lee Barbie, and Joe Jackson, who's been on ours. They all came in at the same time in Indiana. So they had man, if you were buying a baseball team, that would have been the group. But he is as nice as can be. And he's an avid, he can tell you everything about everything fly tying as well as fishing. He's got a quite his Facebook page, I believe, is the Flies of Tao. And then I'm not on Instagram, but Lois obviously has that information if anybody wants to know that. But I think probably similar as far as the name. And it's SONTAO, Terry, if you're looking him up. Because I see Terry looking on the computer already.
Actually, I was looking for a friend. I have a friend I graduated with, Bill Prather in Denver. And I think he told me one time that he was head of Trout Unlimited or one of the fishing clubs there in Denver. I was just looking to see if I could see it. I don't see it here. But he's an average fisherman. He's an avid fly fisherman but he mostly fishes lakes. So I don't see on here what organization he's with or was with.
Well, if you track it
Huh,
down,
okay.
let us know. I mean, it's definitely a good contact. All right, guys, we're just running past the hour. So any requests for next week's fly?
I want to see somebody tie a humpy.
Ah, Lois, we were just talking about that today. You might have to ship that to me faster.
Okay, I'll get it out. As soon as we dig out of the snow, I'll get it to you.
So I'm kidding. I can figure it out. Carl, we were talking about how technically that fly is so finicky for measuring and how you get it perfectly lined up and at least with our little para, and cutting stuff, and we have the benefit of doing that, but you don't cut the tips on a fly, and you can. There's some gorgeous ones out there. I might have to recruit to an expert for that one because I'm never happy with my Humpties. I figured it out. I tackled that one, but I don't think those are.
I got on a little humpy tying kick here this winter. And
You did.
yeah, I sat there and I tied these top ones like in 2 days. And I was like, that one's not good enough, but it's going in the box. That one's not good enough, but it's going in the box. But I just like to see somebody else tie them that was a fly I used to fish in New Mexico, but one of my veterinarian friends I used to work for, he would tie them for me and just give them to me. And we used them with a red body and a yellow back. And
Yep.
They were a killer fly. I mean, it didn't matter where you went, you were going to catch a fish on it. It was just, you didn't have to have different stuff. You had that in there, you were going to catch some fish.
Hey,
I can
hey,
ask,
hey,
I
Carl,
can ask our guy if he wants to do that next week with you guys.
That would be awesome, Lois.
And-
I mean,
and we
because that
can-
would be really, yeah, that would be something if you want to talk to your guy and see if
Okay.
he's available next Monday.
Okay.
hey,
Yeah,
Carl,
that would be super.
Carl, what was that gin slattery again? I looked him up. I couldn't find it.
Look on the fly tying. I just closed it out here. SLATT. All right. Let me pull up my groups here real quick.
Carl, but it's on social media, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So are you looking on there, Terry? Are
Yeah,
you on Facebook?
yeah.
Yeah, look, I looked it up. It's under the hackle. Look under the fly fishing hackle thing on Facebook,
Well, I
It'll
did.
come up.
I didn't see it.
because I just signed up while you guys were talking about it. So,
Yeah, no, it's
the Fly tying hackle group,
yes.
and you have to do a join thing.
Huh.
Terry, text
But
me
if-
if you
how
can't
about if
find
we
it.
s-
I'll send you the link on it.
All right, that's
Yeah, I was
great.
gonna say-
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
pull it
we'll
up and
send out.
I'll send it to you.
All righty.
Yeah,
But
me
yeah,
too,
no,
Carl, if
that's
you
a
wouldn't mind.
it's a great group. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff on there. So just for learning too, if you don't know much about it, it's, it's he's even got some introductory hackle packs right now, 4 for a half capes. You can just get a kind of a group.
Oh, here it
mix.
is. Fly tying hackle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks
Pretty
like a
neat.
lot of hackle.
Oh, way you get signed up on it, you get the updates on it. You'll really be like Saturday mornings, there'll be like 20 updates. People, I'll take that. I'll take that. So he sells a lot of it. So
Where's he out of?
I can't remember. I think it's Idaho or Montana or something.
Okay.
But I read the reviews on it and on Facebook and all the comments I saw. He's the real deal. You'll get what you pay for exactly. And so anyway,
Okay.
I thought it'd be worth passing on to the group.
Thank you.
Don, did you find it?
No,
Are
I
you
didn't.
Looking.
No, I
Okay.
didn't.
Carl, when you get a chance after we're done, could you just reply all to the email that Kat sent out that you had a DAV meeting? But could you just reply all with any information that you find? And that would help everybody who was on that email.
Yep, I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we got a Humpty. We're going to see if Lois can line up her star, and we'll get a guest tire next week.
Great. Wonderful.
Woo!
I'm
All right,
impressed.
email just went out to him, so we'll see what he
Outstanding,
comes
yeah.
back with.
Well, and if he
All right.
doesn't, then
Well, everybody
when
have
are
a
you
great
going
week.
up? When are you going up to Charlie's Fly Box?
I need to go up there sometime this week, so.
So Charlie would be another one to ask if he wants to
There.
help. If he wants to help us out at all,
Sure.
no pressure at all. But
If he's in there, I'll ask him.
yeah,
Hey,
and
Lois.
if not, sorry.
Lois.
Yes, sir.
Hey, for us Yankees or whatever we are way out east.
I'm
I've
from
been to
Michigan, so go lightly there.
I've been to Colorado a lot of times, but I have a difficult time finding some good available water that's not overfished and stuff like that. And if sometime in the near future, like within the next 2 or 3 years, if you can find that kind of stuff, I would really be interested.
We have a program in the San Luis Valley here, and I would tell you that's probably the best and least fish in the whole state. It's on the Rio.
Is that in New Mexico?
No, it's here in Colorado.
Wow.
It's on the Rio.
On the Rio.
Yeah, and
Okay. What towns is it near?
South Fork.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I've been up
Because
there and fished that a lot of years ago.
Yeah, it's everything up here's overfished, but it's still fun. And if you don't go on private water and pay the rod fee, you're probably going to be around a bunch of people. It's just the way it is. But we have a person in our, he's a vet and a volunteer, but he has his own pond and he's on the ark. So we can always touch bases with him
And I'm gonna get
See how that
a hold of Bill Prather if he's still in that organization. I don't know up in Denver. I don't know if that'd do you any good to align forces with him and his group. I thought it was TU, but I'm not sure.
Well, hey, we're happy to, I'm happy to fish anywhere. I'm not fussy. So,
I will I'll get a hold of him. And
Okay, I
if it's a positive, I'll get it to Amy and she can get it to you. How's that?
yeah, but if you guys are coming here, I would very much recommend that you go to South Fork and go down to the Rio because there's some big fish in there and it's not as crowded.
And you have a group now. I have contacted a group, a guy out of can't think of the town, Western Springs, Pagosa Springs.
Uh-huh.
And I got some information from him, which was helpful. Unfortunately, they just had forest fires and then a drought the year I went.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out, but it was really good to talk to somebody that could help us out where we're sometimes flying blind trying to make
Sure.
get directions.
So, if you guys come up this way, let me know and we'll see what we can do.
Well, Lois, bless you. Have a good night.
And I have to laugh because you notice how Lois was saying, well, it might be crowded, and that in Colorado terms means you might see somebody within, I don't know, 150 yards. And what we were standing when we were just at Bennett and we were literally 5 feet apart.
Yeah.
And John and I've never clipped a rod before. I've hooked Mick before on a windy day on accident, but John and I locked up on the rods. But it is anyway. So we're actually okay with crowds, Lois. Just to let you know, we're really okay with it.
And
Okay,
Lois,
well, then there's some opportunities here for sure.
Lois, what's your last name?
Short,
What is it?
short.
Short.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your title?
Lois.
Your title with Project Healing Waters.
Terry,
We don't need to worry
Terry.
about that.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm just down here in the Springs.
Okay.
she's on her free time joining her call. Well,
I got you.
I'll make sure you guys have the introduction.
Okay. Well, I'll try and get a hold of my friend, and you guys have a good night.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right,
Nice to
thank
meet
you guys.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you too.
See you next
Thank
Monday.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.